distortion and saturation. What's the difference? And what can you honestly learn in a quick video in a handful of minutes that can genuinely impact your music for the rest of your life? Let's find out. People tend to use the word distortion when talking about audible grit and crunch and perceived degradation, and they tend to use the word saturation when sounds are made to feel a bit more bold or full or shine. I'm going to show you some quick examples of how saturation can be used to shape and color your sounds in ways that EQ simply cannot. And then we'll get a bit more fancy. EQ doesn't actually add anything new to your sounds. It doesn't enhance, it accents. It simply amplifies or attenuates your existing signals exactly as they are. Saturation, however, adds harmonic information to your sounds. In other words, it actually adds new sounds to your existing sound, thereby enhancing it. It allows us to not only hear more of the sound, but moreover, literally elements that simply were not there previously. Now, I like to think of this as a blooming or a maturing, but when you also combine modulation to the equation, this is where evolution can happen. Let's talk about why this simple idea is not just a solid mixing concept, but actually a profound tool for creative exploration and discovery that has been the secret sauce of successful producers for years. Take this vocal sample. This one's called Heavy 1 Main Vocal Dry, and it comes from the Ghost Hack Sound Pack Heavy Vocals. It's found in the Acapellas folder. You can grab it from the Ghost Hack website now. There's a link in the description below.
Looking back on all the days you took the breath away from me, it's like I'm falling in reverse. The more I think of you, it hurts. Afraid to face my own reflection in the mirror I did.
All right, there's great surface texture we can highlight, and it'll be easy to use the powerful vocal performance to our benefit, as signal strength is largely what drives distortion to do its thing. We aren't going to use any over-the-top plugins at first, just using simple overdrive to get started here. We may also look at some clip distortion, but let's keep this simple and to the basics for maximum impact. First, notice that before we do anything else at all, there is a difference in the quality of sound, even when we haven't even started adding anything yet. This is because all processing adds some amount of saturation, simply because of the circuitry that the sounds are passing through. These little bits are what is emulated in virtual plugins.
Looking back on all the days you took the breath away from me, it's like I'm falling in reverse. The more I think of you, it hurts. Afraid to face my own reflection in the mirror I did.
Let's use the tone knob.
Looking back on all the days you took the breath away from me, it's like I'm falling in reverse. The more I think of you, it hurts. Afraid.
This is how we control what frequencies we are targeting and ultimately affect by generating more frequencies in that range of operation. We call these new frequencies harmonics because of their direct relationship to the original frequencies in play. It's math. They occur at regular numeric intervals. There are even and odd harmonics in there. And without getting too far into the weeds here, just know that even harmonics tend to sound and feel supportive and tend to add a feeling of fullness and thickness and luster, while odd harmonics tend to be perceived as harsher and textured and even noisy. And again, without getting too technical here, if you've heard that tubes add even harmonics and tape adds odd harmonics and so on, well, it's just not exactly correct at all. Just know that all distortion plugins, save for probably a few very rare unicorns out there, are adding even and odd harmonics, just in varied amounts. And there's even something called non-linear behavior affecting the outcomes, which simply means that the distribution of even and odd harmonics actively shift and change as signal strength and drive affect the sound in real time. So why do I bring all of this up if we're trying to keep things simple? Just because you need to know how much to push things to get the results you really want. So keep twisting the knob. All that said, now let's use the drive parameter to bloom this vocal a bit until we begin to hear an audible transformation. I've been twisting knobs for decades and this still just gets me every single time. It's like magic is happening right in front of us. Saturation is a huge part of the bigger than life feels that we all enjoy in our favorite media. Okay, let's drive this thing a little bit.
Is something that I've always feared. I don't know who I am or who I should be.
listen to the surface texture. We can clearly hear so much detail and more presence now. Great. Okay, so now let's take a look at using clip distortion instead of overdrive and see what we come up with. This time we're going to focus a bit more on the high end of the sound.
Looking back on all the days you took the breath away from me, it's like I'm falling in reverse. The more I think of you, it hurts. Afraid to face my own reflection in the mirror. Identity is something that I've always feared. I don't know who I am or who I should be. So give me back the things that you have taken away from me.
Quite a bit different. Pretty powerful, a lot more high-end presence in here. And it sounds like a really cool kind of radio effect, right? Before we move on to the next sound, I'd just like to point out that normally we'd be doing all of this in a larger mix. It's important to hear the changes being made in the context of the moment. Have a goal in mind before you begin, so you don't stray into directionless experimentation all day. Also, keep reference material close by if you're trying to aim for a certain type of sound. Subtle adjustments can have really big results. I also think it's a really good time to just stop explaining some of the technicalities in greater detail and start browsing more examples so we can begin to absorb what we've just learned as we listen to it happen again and again in a variety of ways. In my experience, it's far more impactful to be inspired again and again by a certain new type of effect in the beginning. We're able to sense and appreciate what's happening without all the difficult words and concepts tripping us up. And not having all the words for what you're learning in the moment is simply part of the process of learning. So let's really listen and try to focus on the inspiration that's being followed in each example, as disparate as they may seem while we're going through them. Okay, so next sound that we're going to listen to is another vocal sample. And this one is called Vocal Digi. You can find it in our Pandora collection. Link is below in the description. You'll find it in the Lost Cathedral music construction kit. Okay, so first what we're going to do is we're going to listen to Overdrive again, just to start with the basics. It's so easy, right? It's almost like cheating. It's also super important just to notice the different qualities in a sound and what types of distortion might align best with those qualities. For instance, this sound is really throaty, which is a really good type of sound to pair with Bitcrush. Especially if we downsample it a bit, it'll give it a little bit of digital tonality. Let's do that really quick. So you can hear a couple of different things happening here. First, I adjusted the resolution so it wasn't quite as noisy. I downsampled it, which brought a whole bunch of kind of digital artifacting to this thing. I drove it so it became more crunchy and present. And then I backed off the mix. So only part of that, about half of that, was actually being delivered in the sound. So we're hearing part of the original signal and part of the process signal together. Okay, so our next example is a full mix drum loop. It's a techno beat. It's called Explain, and you can find it in the Melodic Techno Essentials pack. Link in the description. All right, it sounds like this. First, we're going to hit it with some overdrive, then we'll follow it up with some clip distortion. We'll compare the two, and we'll move on to something a little bit more interesting. Feels pretty good right there. All right, let's try the clip distortion and see what we come up with. kind of a fine tuning here, right? You can feel it becoming a little bit more focused and kind of coming into alignment with itself. Okay, so next level up topic of conversation here is routing. And we're going to use a tool called Guitar Rig from Native Instruments. And specifically, I'm going to load up an often overlooked tool inside of it called a container. And specifically, this one is called a split mix container. And what this does is it allows us to load into two separate halves of this container any number of effects that we want. And then we can crossfade between these two containers. We're just going to keep it very simple, and I've just loaded a simple distortion unit called Dirt in here in one half, and the other half is completely empty. It's very important to explore the realm of extremes, and we don't often listen to all of those extreme outcomes in our mix, but we might bring in just a couple % of an extreme effect into one of our sounds, and it can have a profound effect upon our entire mix. And at about 12% or so, we're sitting at a spot where we can easily hear that this is going to start cutting through the mix differently. Okay, now you hear me say it all the time as one of the main taglines in my Ohmlab project, but less is more. That's exactly what we're going to talk about with this example. This sound is called Wet Smack. It's a super nice sound design hit, and it's from the pack Sci-Fi Atmospherics 2, link in the description. So on this one, all we're going to do is just soften the delivery. Right now, it sounds like this. It's nice, right? But I want to soften it up even more. Even more. That's pretty nice. Now I want to drive this a bit. Nice. Now I'm going to add an EQ. Yeah. So distortion does not necessarily mean crunch every single time. This pulsating bass synth is called Absolute, and it's from the pack Dreamscape's Uplifting Ambient. It sounds like this. Until that is, we send it through Saturn 2 from FabFilter. So this sound is called Utopia, and it can be found in the Cinematic Essentials 4 collection. It's a simple piano piece, but it carries some nice emotional baggage with it. So I want to lean into that. I also want to enhance the feelings of fragility and vulnerability, and unsureness, unease that's all lurking right below the surface. I'm going to use a tool called Rift from Minimal Audio. It's a different approach to distortion entirely, where you affect the top half of the waveform differently than the bottom half of the waveform. Pretty unique stuff. But in addition to the distortion being applied here, there's also some filter modulation to add more motion and change over time. So here's the sound on its own. So what I'd like to do is take a somewhat extreme distortion and use just a small amount of it on this sound. See if we can dial in what we want emotionally. Yeah. Okay, so this is called Pad Loop 18, and it's from the Acid Techno Essentials collection. Link in the description. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to age this thing. I'd like to degrade this thing and send it back in time. Let's listen to what it sounds like right now, and then we'll hit it with some Bitcrush. Man, that is tasty. Okay, so from the Abstract Perks Volume 3 collection, we've got a super cool perk loop called Exploit here. Sounds like this. And we're going to hit this with Rift, working with a little bit of delay and filter as well as distortion. But we're going to funk it up here. Check this out. Right? It really doesn't take too much just to blow something up and give it a completely different perspective. Okay, so let's level it up one more time, and this time we're going to include a little bit of amp and cabinet modeling. So we're going to go back to Guitar Rig, and we're going to process this. It's a guitar loop called Basilisk 2, and it comes from the Summer Night Funk collection. It sounds like this. Now we're going to put it through Guitar Rig. You can see that there's a split mix container in here. There is also a matched cabinet going along with this amp head up here. There's a delay and a verb present here. So let's just turn this on and see how transformative sending this guitar through this Guitar Rig really is. Highly transformative, and it brings something that sounds like it was recorded in a studio into this kind of live performance realm. It's pretty sweet. Great. So this one's called Illusion, and it comes from the pack Trap and Wave Essentials. Link in the description below. We're going to go back to Guitar Rig for this one, and we're going to pour a whole bunch of sauce on it. And this is going to include some more amp modeling. Let's listen to this first before we go there, though. Okay, so what I'm wanting is like a real classic saucy sound. And I'm going to turn to the Citrus amp, which is modeled after the popular orange amps that rose to fame in the 70s. It's going to transform it completely. This is also using a container. There's a lot of modulation happening in here. There's a little bit of filtering, but the real magic is coming in from this amp head here. It's just so transformative. What a classic sound. As we've just heard from these 10 very different audio examples, distortion is a tool that can be used in so many ways and can help you achieve just about any sound imaginable. Distortion is an incredibly complex topic, and it's worthy of dozens of in-depth conversations. If you'd like to see a detailed breakdown of how distortion is actually used from beginning to end on specific sounds to achieve specific results in a larger mix, let us know in the comments below. We'd be happy to share more knowledge and tips in a deeper dive. Until then, I encourage you to explore and experiment with distortion. Use it gently and call it saturation. Use it in extreme ways to warp your sounds beyond recognition. Use it like a ninja in parallel processing schemes to introduce nuanced luster and textures that cannot be achieved any other way. And use it in tandem with other effects to start making something new, something special. All right, make sure you're subbed, smash that like, share with a friend, and until next time, stay inspired. See you on the flip, y'all.